My life? Okay. Hi there. It's been a wonderful week. Been healthy, strong. It's been good. It's been really, really good. And Robert is going to turn off his sound after he told me to make sure my sound was turned off. Ha ha ha. We caught him. Okay. So, is the Big Kahuna a visitor or is he a class member?
Yeah, remember, if your YouTube username is not your personal name, go ahead and put your personal name there so we can identify you.
Yeah, just tell me who you are so I can make sure you get credit for being here. That's always a cool thing to do. So,
YouTube did just roll out usernames, which changed some people, so that might be throwing people off.
okay.
Oh,
Visitor, good sir. Well, great to have you. Great to have you. We love to talk about various subjects here. So, being a visitor to the live stream, it's not good to have you. The rest of the people that are probably here, are probably going to be members of a class that I teach at Lindenwood University in St. Charles, Missouri, and they are joining because we get together once a week to talk about current subjects. So glad to have you. It's always great to have a visitor. We had a bunch of visitors from Australia last quarter. That was a lot of fun. So glad to have you. Glad to have you. So you'll see the other people identifying who they are, so I can give them credit in the class for being here. So that's cool. All right.
We do have a question from Adam.
Adam, just out of curiosity, this week is worth 100 points, right? Oh, Canvas has it listed as 0. You're all here for free. Yeah, I'll fix that. I'll fix that. Sometimes those little changes happen. Thank you for letting me know. So that's good. And Big Kahuna, feel free to ask questions along the way. Your questions are just as valuable to the rest of the class as theirs are to you, I'm sure. So feel free. And I'm keeping alive with my monster drink in hand. All right. I have kind of a light schedule tonight, but hopefully you'll appreciate the 2 topics because I've brought a couple show and tell items and that I think are going to be fun based on a Bitcoin article that was submitted about how Bitcoin works. So let's go ahead and get to it. And basically the first article I want to talk about was submitted. These are usually articles submitted by a student in class.
Can we scoot the window in a little bit?
Scoot up there. Oh,
yep.
To the right?
Please.
Tell me how far.
Keep going.
Tell me when to go.
Back just a little bit. Okay, there you go.
Oh, right. That means I get more for the chat window on the left. Okay, very good. Very good. The voice that you hear in the background, Big Kahuna, is Robert. He's my oldest son and technical assistant that helps me keep things running. He's kind of behind the camera to make sure things are running right. So that's who you're hearing in the background. He has a mic so he can comment during
I
class
just press
too.
the buttons.
Well, he does more than that, but we'll give him that much credit anyway. So we're going to talk a little bit about this article about how blockchain could empower the AI revolution. Now, I do have a standalone video out there concerning AI coupled with blockchain. So you could search for that and go take a look at those opinions too. This is really a very short article, so really I'm going to talk about a whole lot more than what is actually in the article. The article had some concepts in it that the blockchain with its data management and security capabilities basically would be a good match with AI driving conclusions from the data that is pulled into the blockchain. So we're not talking about a public blockchain yet necessarily here. We're talking about a blockchain that would be tied to an application where you would have a login, so you would be a known individual. And let's put a supposition together here, because probably the best use case example of blockchain and AI would be in the traffic congestion, traffic routing, that area of things. Now, Google does a great job at that. They just don't do it with blockchain. But the good thing might be the fact that with a blockchain-driven conclusion, you may have the ability to collect data quicker, put it on the blockchain, and the analysis by the AI to then collect the data and send it back out to particular drivers who are in the same locale as other app users, would be able to give you good real-time information concerning any of the traffic situations that currently exist. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about with AI being able to couple with blockchain as the data repository in the background. Now, the reason I mentioned that it's not going to be a public blockchain like Bitcoin, for example, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and proof of work a little later in the live stream here. The reason I say that is because Bitcoin and, let's say, Litecoin and several others that are still using proof of work take the tact that in order to prove that the miner is real and a good, a friendly actor and not fraud, is to do math problems that force them to basically to spend money. Instead of having an account, they have to have a miner that actually consumes electricity in order to solve problems to validate the network. Okay, so they validate the network. That if they get to the solution to the hashing problem before anyone else, they also then get to take the reward and the fees from the blocks that they close. That situation doesn't exist when you have a private blockchain that is monitored through logins and the chance for people to join the network as a login or a trusted party. So, okay, so blockchain also, it says, boosts the credibility of AI by validating data sources. So let's take another example. Let's say we're pumping data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. They're pumping weather data in from transponders, and I mean, it's all publicly available data, and through various oracles you can connect that data into the blockchain, collect that data, and use AI to then quickly analyze and give data back to various users. Now we're seeing like Weather Omega is a big one nowadays. It's using a lot of that weather data. They have, of course, a subscription service, and if you're familiar with some of the weather people online, such as Ryan Hall, he uses Radar Omega a lot. Now, there has to be a lot of AI in the background there. Now, the question is, they use a data repository of some sort. Could they be benefited by using, blockchain data to collect data all over and analyze that on through? Now, this website also does something quirky in the next thing. It says wider acceptance of blockchain driven by its application in business operations and the recognition of public blockchain benefits, including cryptocurrencies. In other words, now they're trying to say if it gets better accepted in the business realm, we might have better acceptance of cryptocurrencies. Maybe. I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a far stretch, but he goes into this idea in his conclusion that if we get blockchain doing really well in other applications that are just business applications, like in supply chains and weather reporting and traffic cams and so forth, that somehow that's going to help adoption of cryptocurrencies. I struggle to find the connection there, really. So, laying the foundations of a data fortress, yes. The whole idea of a blockchain is the fact that it's got transparency. Once it's recorded, it's there, period. It's the way things were at the split second that it got recorded on the blockchain, and you can look it up, you can extract it, you can see what the history is. That would be really nice for accounting books many corporations that really need to record the transaction as they exist today. I work in finance systems at Boeing, and on many occasions, I've got users that want to adjust actuals. They want to change what actually happened in the past. In a blockchain, they'd have to put an offsetting entry in that would tell what the original entry was and the offsetting entry and the reason for that offsetting entry. A lot of times, though, they want to actually touch the real thing, the real transactions, and change the data in it, which I find to be a little bit shady. Most of the time, we get managers to back us up and say, I'm sorry, time out here. No. And it ends there. But sometimes we get managers that are very insistent and want to change that, and it goes all the way up the line to the CFO. So the nice thing about blockchain is that you can record data and it's there forever, and you can go, get the data out. Maybe the climate people that want to say that there's a problem with what humans are doing on the planet and how we could positively affect things if we behaved better according to them. Maybe a collection of data in a blockchain might benefit their cause, but it might also allow other people to research things and understand better what might not be really happening according to some of the scientists. You never know.
That would really put to bed a lot of the accusations of falsifying data in the past, because once it's there, it's immutable.
Yep, exactly. So somebody ought to be able to recreate all those experiments, and a lot of the big complaints when some scientist says there's this issue, the sea is going to rise by an inch. I say, who cares? But anyway, you can go back and revalidate that data that went into that study. Well, a lot of times it's the data that the scientist has collected, and that's why you end up with so many different variations of what you think might be true. So anyway, so the transparent nature of blockchain becomes an incredibly good point there. So blockchain's role in refining intelligence. And I think really we just touched on that. Is that, when scrutinizing AI's functionality, it often resembles an intricate maze, housing multiple layers of complexity. At one end of the spectrum, we encounter a robust infrastructure providers such as semiconductor corporations and graphics manufacturers. Simultaneously, at the other extreme, we have algorithm providers like OpenAI with technologies like ChatGPT, which I find to be incredibly useful, by the way. Running seamlessly through these layers, blockchain can actually, help unify things. Like, for example, you have a blockchain, and you want certain data to train the certain instance of ChatGPT, for example. If you have it in the blockchain, you can then repeatedly train different AIs in different disciplines potentially. So you have one blockchain that's all weather, or one blockchain that's all traffic, or one blockchain that's one other science discipline such as healthcare, or many others that you could then train up a ChatGPT sort of instance and use the OpenAI to actually go in there and develop answers. And we see a lot of that happening with AI right now, and it could be very well enhanced by a blockchain. So I think he's got it right here. I'm not so sure about Web3 applications. The Web3 applications I've seen have been kind of, no thanks. But, someday they might actually get it right.
It's still a solution in search of a problem.
That's true. Yeah, that's true and a big deal. I haven't really seen a good business case for it yet. So maybe that'll happen. So, with AI and blockchain collaborating, we may see some really fantastic technologies emerge in the future. I would really hope so. So let's turn it out for some questions. Does anybody have any questions concerning that before I go on to my next wonderful topic?
While we're ready for that, I want to make a comment, kind of drive home the point about traffic. One of the reasons why it pairs so well with a blockchain to house the data is, first, you have a lot of data sources. And every single data source can act like a node on the blockchain. So when I'm driving down the road, I can log on that blockchain. This is the speed I was going. So it tells you roughly how fast the traffic's moving. This is the weather I'm experiencing. You know, here's all the conditions that I'm seeing from my car. And in my car, I can register all that. Simultaneously, the blockchain through the AI system can look at, okay, what other data has been recorded recently that it can then look up to figure out where the traffic is ahead of me or whatever else.
Exactly. Exactly. The distributed nature of that data would be incredibly useful.
Yep.
Exactly. So, alrighty. So let's move on to the next one. Now, the next one was submitted here, and to me this one is kind of an odd bird. For one, it's by Wired. Enough said. I don't even need to talk about it, right? I don't know what's happened to Wired. They were really good back in the old PC days when PC was still, you know, getting its first go onto the desktop. But over the last 30 years, they have just slowly become one of the bottom dwellers of data. So, so you get this inflammatory sort of headline here. Miners are playing a high-stakes game of chicken. Oh, give me a break. Okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? You're right. They're challenging, the CEOs of various companies are challenging each other, getting in cars and driving at each other. I mean, what in the world?
Okay.
In a true business realm, you would not ever talk about a business trying to survive as playing a high stakes game of chicken. It just doesn't work that way. So basically Bitcoin, and I'll illustrate this as we go on. Bitcoin, when the miners mine the data for the opportunity to close a block. The whole goal is to close a block. Now, currently, a block pays out 6.25 Bitcoin for the miner that closes that block. In general, miners join mining pools, or if you're a big enough facility on your own, you do it on your own, but generally, guys like you, me, and whoever would join a pool so that all of your computing power is combined to get the opportunity to close a block. An individual with one miner or two miners would have very, very little chance to close, to close a block. So you join a mining pool to spread the wealth, so to speak. And so the mining pools deliberately pull everybody together, and they become basically one big miner with hashing strength to then push through and gather the rewards and spread them out. Now, what this is talking about, though, is it's talking about companies such as Marathon Digital Holdings. Now, Marathon Digital Holdings is a huge outfit. They've I believe they're based out of New York, if I'm remembering right. And they've got actually a mining outfit that is next to a river where they have their own hydroelectric generators, and they power their facility almost entirely on their own. When they've got a need for a surplus of energy, they tap into the grid and pull some, but they don't pull all their electricity from privately held companies and then have to pay them electricity costs. Of course, even generating your own electricity, carries a cost. You got to buy the equipment, you got to depreciate the equipment over time, and that's an expense that you have to carry. But from an accounting standpoint, you're paying a lot less for your electricity than you and I would when we pay our local electric bill to heat our home and such. So when he talks, Fred Thiel, when he talks about his mining facility, of course, he's talking about the fact that when he gets paid in Bitcoin at the end, when the Bitcoins were each worth $62,000, he got paid a whole lot more for closing a block than they do now when Bitcoins just today went a little over 28,000. A huge difference between 28 and 62. So yes, there was a hit that took, and the article and several other places too. They've picked this up. They talk about this being the crypto winter. In other words, with the prices having gone down so far, that it forced an awful lot of businesses out of business. You know, FTX was forced out of business. In other words, his Ponzi scheme stopped working when the prices went down. Several other business enterprises that were actually real business enterprises trying to stay in business went under because they were playing it a little bit loose with the accounting, and when the price of the coins weren't there to support it, they didn't go. So really, it's the whole idea. Every business has business cycles, period. When I'm working for Boeing, I know that a certain period of time is going to go by, and there's going to be a ton of planes ordered by airplane companies around the world. Travel is good, and then COVID happens. And you have to shut down operations, and airline companies trying to survive are going to either cancel orders or defer orders later. And that cycle has gone on every so many years. Sometimes it's a natural cycle. The business trends just go into a recession and back out. Sometimes it's caused by 9/11 back in 2001. Sometimes it's caused by COVID. Things happen. Business cycles just happen. And it's totally true with the Bitcoin market as well. We've seen it go up. We've seen it go down. 62,000 was quite a radical high compared to previous highs. And we've generally seen it go up and then go down and lose about 80% of its value before it heads back up. And then it'll lose about 80% of its value again and go back up. So we saw Bitcoin go down to about 12, wasn't it, Robert?
This last cycle, yeah.
Yeah, it went down from 62 to 12. You know, if you're a Bitcoin enthusiast that's been watching it for a period of time, you'd say, nah, not unusual. You know, you pull your money out, you put it on the sidelines, you get it into USDC or some other stable coin, and you ride it out. This one's been particularly long. It's hit the bottom and then just kept bouncing because the SEC can't get their act together and actually write some clear regulations so that the companies can abide by them and stay out of trouble. Binance totally left the United States because of that. So those issues, business cycles happen. So when we talk about the crypto winter, we're talking about a business cycle in Bitcoin. So when they talk about over the past year, the sector's been battered by a slump in the price and combined with a spike in energy costs. Well, we know about that. We know about the spike in energy costs. You know, coal prices have gone up. We have an adversarial administration right now when it comes to generating electricity through either coal or fuel or now even natural gas. So
non-renewables in general.
yeah, and they want to go to all non-renewables, and right now non-renewables are not up to the task of even doing all of the electric cars that they want to put on the road right now. So that's been a challenge, and with that kind of adversarial relationship with the government, you end up with prices going up, and of course that's what we saw. But here, in 2021, when prices were high, the profit margin was 90%. That's incredibly high. Most businesses barely can expect to earn 15, sometimes 20% if they're doing really good. Boeing, on their profit and loss statement at the end of the year, you know, when they hit 10%, we're cheering. 11%, we start patting ourselves on the back. I mean, we just don't make a whole lot of money from the money we bring in and actually get planes out the door and are able to keep inside.
Yeah, and it's not like somebody can start up tomorrow and decide to build a new Boeing to put another plane out there. So when profit margins are high for Boeing, you get to enjoy those profit margins.
Mm-hmm.
When he sees profit margins as high as 90%, what does it take for somebody else to go buy a miner, plug it in, and start taking chunks of that 90% away from him, right?
Wow. Yeah.
It's super easy. Anybody can go out and buy a miner and start taking away some of his profit margin.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it should be expected that his profit margin goes back down near zero in the short term and in the long term. That's just kind of where it's going to stabilize.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it does bring more miners into the mix, which increases the what they call difficulty, which means it takes longer to close a block or more terahashes to close a block. So there's less money to go around, and so that's just kind of the normal business cycle. So where he starts talking about the game of chicken is in the spring of 2024. The next halving is happening, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about what the halving is. Very odd term, and of course it takes an explanation of what that term really means so that you understand it. So I have the next thing up here. This is the Bitcoin halving clock by BitcoinWorldwide.com halving. Okay, or you can search. There's several others. So basically, they're projecting that the next point where the reward to the mining companies gets slashed in half again is going to be in about April 16th of 2024. So currently they're getting 6.25 Bitcoin every time they close a block. They also get all the fees, and we'll talk about all the fees here in a moment. I hope I have that website up. No, I don't, but I'll tell you what I read about that. Anyway, so what's going to happen is when this happens, it'll be at 3.125, and that'll go on for another number of blocks. And by the time you get to 2040, there will be no more block rewards. Well, how are miners going to stay in business then? So not only do they get the reward for closing the block in Bitcoin, they also keep all those little fees for all of the transactions that took place in that block that they just closed. So they get the right to close the block and the right to keep all the fees. Now, as the Bitcoin reward goes down, probably the number of transactions are going to continue to rise, and the amount of fees collected would continue to rise with it. Satoshi Nakamoto, the pseudonym person, he basically had the idea that by 2040, the network would be self-sustaining with fees only. In other words, miners would still have enough of a reward with enough transactions going through the network that the fees would continue to pay the miners. Now, if that's not the case and too many miners go out of business, it just means that the difficulty goes down and the ability to close blocks goes up, and they close more blocks and get more of a reward. It's a self-balancing system, the whole idea there. So this is what halving is about. So when he goes here and he talks about in the spring, well, this clock here had it at April 16th, 2024. So in the spring of 2024, a mechanism baked into the Bitcoin system that periodically cuts the number of coins awarded will slash mining profits. I love it when nobody understands true business. But, the goal for miners is to ensure they have a strong enough financial position to survive the fall in profits longer than anyone else. So this is where he kind of gets his game of chicken. It's a matter of trying to survive. Well, all business cycles create business failures. If you don't have a good, solid business case and you're making good profits by managing your business, especially in the good times when you're making 90% and putting some away because you know the lean times are going to come, those businesses that aren't managing it that way are going to go out of business. And you'll have a lot of miners available to be purchased and put in your mining pool. And speaking of that, I have kind of a show and tell to give you to let you know what it's all about. Okay, Robert, you want to flip the switch there?
There you go.
Sitting over next to me is one of my miners. This one happens to be a Decred miner. I only have one Decred miner. Didn't find it to be very profitable, but I just keep it going with the rest because I already purchased the hardware. So it is a miner. You'll notice it has a fan in the front and it has a fan that you may not be able to see in the back. Now, one is pushing air in, the other one's pulling air out. And one of the challenges, really, of a miner is the amount of noise they make, because they push a lot of air around. And when they're doing their work, they make a lot of heat. So generally, I had this outtake here that I attached to a vent, a dryer vent hose, and I had these venting out into my garage when I had these running in my basement, so that basically when I was mining at a time when I couldn't use the heat, I would just vent it outside. I also had the ability to turn it off and heat my house with it, which of course is a benefit in the winter. When I'm paying for electricity to run this. Thankfully, I'm getting paid for running this in my mining pool. And once I get paid for running this and use the heat as well, it generally tends to break even, and I've built up more coin. So what I'd like to do next is I'd like you to. I did make the claim that it was loud, so I'm going to share. This is what they sound like when they start going. Now, I don't have this one plugged into the network currently. I have to find a new Decred pool. This has been sitting off to the side for about 2 years now, and need to find another pool to mine to. So it starts running, and this isn't too bad. I don't know if they can even hear this. Can you guys hear this? I'll wait till somebody responds. Maybe you can tell me if somebody responds and tells me if they can even hear it. After a bit, it'll sound like a jet airplane taking off, because it will then ramp up its speed as it starts to, as the circuit boards in here start to heat up. Now, what's here is 4 circuit boards. There it goes. There are 4 circuit boards that are what they call ASIC.
Application-specific integrated circuits.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, application-specific integrated circuits that are made specifically to do one thing, and that is just to solve these hash problems. Okay.
We have a lot of confirmation. You can hear it. It's loud.
Yes, for sure. Okay. Now, you kind of picture that when you've got 6 of them or 7 of them running side by side.
Yeah.
They can tend to be kind of loud. I have 6 Litecoin miners, and I have this one Decred miner, and so they were all working in my basement. I was just collecting the coin. Now, what kind of caused me a little bit of pause is that I didn't count on the fact that during the summertime in Missouri, when I was where I was when I was mining, electric prices went up during the day, during the summertime. I never really understood the idea of collecting more when everybody's using more, but such was the case. And the first time I got a $1,000 electric bill one month, I said, I'm not making that much in Litecoin. So I shut them off, did some more research, and found that, found the dates that the price went back down for the wintertime, and I would then run them during the wintertime. During the summertime, of course, I couldn't take the benefit of the heat they were generating either, so it was a lose-lose situation. The electricity was high, and I couldn't use the byproduct from the miners. So that's the miner. Now, what it looks like, I have a, when I look here, the Antminers show up like this. I have another one running in the other room.
And this is a look at our router right now, right?
This is a look at our router. Tells me the IP address, so that I could log into my IP address, log into the miner. When I log into the miner, I get a dashboard here, and the dashboard allows me then to,
Under miner configuration.
thank you. It allows me to point it to, I'm pointing it to the Litecoin pool, us.litecoinpool.org, and here's the username and the password that the miner has to get access to the pool. That won't do you any good. So it doesn't matter if you know that. So basically you configure it like this, and so the one that's running in the other room right now looks like that. Now on the pool side of it, you see it like this, and you can see down here that I have one running that's only doing a certain number of kilohashes. Now, the one that I have running is a little peewee. Literally, it's a USB stick that plugs into the back of my computer. It'll never make its money back, period. I could leave that thing running for the next century, and it will not make me enough money to pay for what I paid for this stupid little gizmo. So don't ever buy what they call a Moonlander. It's a little USB stick, and it makes it sound really wonderful. It only runs when I turn my computer on, so it doesn't drain any power, but it pays me about 41 cents every 4 months, every 3 months. So it's running right now, and that's why it's in the kilohash level. Now, when I had all these miners up and running, I would get into the gigahashes level of mining, and that's when I'm actually making money. They would make a couple $100 a month at the time that I was mining, and you can see that I've developed a little bit, and it's unpaid rewards here. It pays out. It shows down here that it pays out when I get to 0.01 Litecoin. Current price of Litecoin is 85. So every time it pays out, I get 85 cents. So, and with this one mining so slow, it takes about 3 months, 90 days or so to get 85 cents, I guess it is now. Now that price must have been down to 40 something last I checked it. But, so, that's kind of the way the whole mining thing works if you're an individual. And yeah,
that's what we have.
And that's basically what we have. So basically, this is up for questions now. I hope you've kind of enjoyed the show and tell. I always enjoyed bringing this to class because I would bring 2 or 3 of them to class, and we'd fire them up in class when I was teaching.
And toast the room.
Well, I usually didn't leave them running that long,
No.
but they barely got warmed up by the time we turned them off. But yeah, it's fun to play. I've played in the Bitcoin and mining space and just had a lot of fun learning along the way until they finally said, you do blockchain, Rick?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, develop a course for us. And so here I am. So.
And the nice thing is, again, like you said, in the winter, other than running a couple of fans, all the rest of the electricity that's being used there is just generating heat. And so long as the heat is useful for you, I'm pretty sure that there were a couple of months in there, or at least a significant period of time, where you never really needed the furnace during the winter, when all you need to do is turn on the air and circulate the air through the basement, which typically is pretty cool, and it's already absorbing a lot of that heat.
Mm-hmm. So. Yep. All right, what would be a good way to get into mining with potentially low risk? Well, ant miners are by far the most popular. They're sold by Bitmain, and you can usually find them on eBay, and I think you can even find them on Amazon. Right. Let's see if they've got Amazon miners on Amazon.
Amazon doesn't like your small window there.
No, they sure don't. Okay. There's an ant miner. Yeah. This one has the power supply attached. The one that I have here, of course, has a separate power supply and plugs into this. So you see the power supply here, and you see the kind of normal ant miner. And S is what?
I don't know. That's a new nomenclature. That's what these are.
So
and there's one for $300. The big deal is as the difficulty continues to go up, they become obsolete very quickly. In fact, I'm pretty sure when we bought that was still a time when there was like a 3 or 4 month waiting list for the newest miner to come out. Mm-hmm. And the waiting list would completely fill up, and they say, I'm sorry, that's all, we're not making a single one more of this generation of miners. We're going to produce these, sell them, and then we're going to get the new generation past that.
Yeah.
Real high demand.
Bitcoin miners are like that. I noticed the Litecoin miners really aren't going up that much. Let's see. Let's go with Litecoin. The Litecoin is the L series.
And you
miner
really
for
have-
Litecoin. Yeah,
well, there's
they're at
the-
the L3, and I've got the.
You have the L3++.
I have the L3 plus.
So that's a 5-year-old machine right there,
Yep.
if not older. So you really have to watch. You have to see how many terahashes or kilohashes or whatever it puts out.
Yep.
To really gauge whether it's worth the electricity you put in.
And I know that my Litecoin miner can do about 540 gigahashes per second.
Okay.
So, and that's the performance that you asked for.
Yeah.
Performance level. So it says you can mine Doge with it as well. That's interesting. 800 watts. Yep, that's 800 watts.
Yeah, and
500. Pardon me. 504 mega hashes. Not
that sounds a bit better. But
Yeah.
there you go. There's
That's
your calculation. You have 800 watts of electricity being used. Calculate the cost of that compared to your current electricity bill, and then look at what the value of 500 mega hashes in Litecoin, whatever pool you want to go into.
So if and when fusion is brought online,
Ooh.
and assuming it fulfills its promise of nearly free, limitless energy production, wouldn't this essentially invalidate the largest benefit of proof of work versus proof of stake? Actually, no, it really wouldn't. Because proof of work is still having to solve those problems. And the whole point of the network was not necessarily just the cost component. The cost component means commitment, but the ability to solve the problems keeps the hackers out of the network. So
Yeah, and you still have to afford buying the miner, and you still have to afford the electricity. So you still have to buy the miner, still have to leave it setting up, you still have to take care of.
yeah, you still have to
But
wire it all up and stuff. So
it certainly makes it cheaper.
21.1 gigawatts for what?
To go back to the future.
Alrighty. The holiday through a month. Well, we got another holiday coming up in 2 weeks, and it's in the middle of the week, and that's going to make it a mess. But anyway, so
To elaborate though on Bikahuna's statement, either way, just like we saw with Ethereum, proof of stake is much more friendly, forward looking. Bitcoin is still proof of work. I think we're going to see a lot fewer proof of work blockchains in the future.
oh yeah,
I think it's so niche at this point. You're not going to see it on the business end at all, and on the crypto end, I think Bitcoin's really about it we'll ever see.
yeah. You don't have proof of stake or proof of work on the business side of it.
Yeah.
So they're more proof of trust, sort of login type of systems. So anyway, so did that answer? Yeah, that answered Big Kuhn's question, I believe. At least that's my opinion about it. Good way to get into mining with potentially low risk. The low risk side of it is once you have the hardware and you plug it in and you've got a way to keep your heat issues in check and your electric bill in check, it's just a business proposition at that point. You plug into a pool, like Litecoin has Litecoin Pool. What was that other pool that they? Pro Hashing does a lot of different. It does Litecoin as well as several other coins that you can plug in. It's what they call a multi pool. So you can give hashing power. And what it does is it sends the hashing power in, and like for example, if my Litecoin algorithm also works for Doge or another coin, it will switch between them depending on the profitability of each particular network. So if the proof of work is earning more money at one versus the other, pro hashing actually switches you back and forth. And when I was pushing data to them, I was finding that I was earning about 10% more than doing it at litecoinpool.org. So, that wasn't a bad difference. So,
And that all just comes down to the fact that different people are investing at different times, and unfortunately, we're not mining this specifically for the money. It's also on an exchange, and so it fluctuates in value all the time.
Yeah.
So
And I can sure hope that fusion power plants actually come online. They've got some promise, at least at the small end, but right now it's taking a lot of those small ones to generate any meaningful electricity at this point. I would even buy into the idea of having several fission power plants, regular nuclear power plants, because we've pretty much solved the waste disposal issue with those. And it would be nice to just get a few of those online, but I don't know why we're not talking about them rather than just wind and solar. We should be talking about nuclear power plants of both ilks, fusion and fission both. So, alrighty. I think I've talked about the subjects that I've got already. So, if there aren't any more questions, we'll call an end to the live stream and look forward to seeing you next week. Big Kahuna, you probably, if you found this one, this live stream, you can join us next week if you find this valuable. So look forward to seeing you again, possibly in the future. So everybody, go ahead and class members, go ahead and log in. Just let me know you're still here. That way I can take attendance a little easier when I see it all at the end. So thank you so much for being here. Look forward to seeing you next week. See ya.